Jonas. Well, I'm finally entering your contest. Took me a while, and hopefully I think I got another week to do it, but I've been thinking about it. And so I finally settled on some decisions about how to answer your questions. And I think number one had to do with our screen names. And mine is Sun Dodger 1. Well, I live here in Seattle, Washington. I went to the University of Washington, and we're known as the University of Washington Huskies. But back in the early 1900s, the university was known as the University of Washington Sun Dodgers. The Sun Dodger was their mascot back then. At some point, mid-century, or I don't know, around the 40s, I don't know when, they made a transition to the Huskies, the dog. So, anyway, got my University of Washington t-shirt on here to show you. That means that's official. So, anyway, that's where it comes from. And the reason why there's a 1 on there is because way back when I first got online and I was going through, I think, AOL, they wanted screen names. So I decided, okay, how about Sun Dodger? That'll be kind of obscure and different and still kind of ties in with me. And oh, nobody will have that. So I type in Sun Dodger and it says name already taken. What? So yeah, apparently more than just one person went to the University of Washington and thought about that as being a name, so a screen name. So I remember a friend of mine had just the number 1 after his name because he kind of ran into that same situation. So I just wrote, okay, Sun Dodger 1. And that's it. So anyway, I just kept that all these years, and even when I had the opportunity to lop off the 1, I figured why? This way it'll be consistent. So anyway, that's the story of my name. Let's see. The second question had to do with an album that reminds us of you. Well, I went through a lot of them. You know, every once in a while I'd think about, this. There's some obvious ones, like I could have pulled out a Neil Young, or I could have pulled out Frank Zappa. But I kept thinking about, just who you are to me when I watch you on those videos. And you're very animated, and you're very passionate and very excited about what you're talking about, and you always just seem like there's a million things going on, and just that energy, that frenetic personality. I'm sure you can be a very laid-back guy, but when you're on and you're talking about your music, you're just very, you're full of energy and just full of all kinds of information, and just an interesting person to watch. So finally, when I was thumbing through, I found a local band that you may or may not have heard of. I think they're very popular in Europe, but they're from way back in the 60s, and they're playing right now, and that's the Sonics. And this is, I love how faded this photo is on this cover. This is the Here Are the Sonics album on Etiquette Records. This is not an original. It's one of many reissues, not many, but several reissues. This is one of the older reissues, 1984. It originally came out in 1965, but this was reissued in 1984. A friend of mine was telling me that there was one release where they released a couple of albums, maybe 2 or 3 albums back in the 60s, and then they released some other albums as well. They're still a band, they're still playing, they're still touring. They just released a 10-inch on color vinyl, which is very cool, not too long ago, for Record Store Day. I think probably just maybe a year or so ago, year and a half ago. But there was one reissue where the albums came out in stereo. That's the only time they've been available in stereo. This is not that issue, unfortunately. This is in mono. But if you haven't heard of the Sonics or heard them, give them a listen. It's 60s garage, fuzzy, lots of energy, frantic, just full-on rock and roll. And that just kind of describes what I see when I'm watching you talk about music, and you're on the channel, you're on YouTube, doing your thing. So anyway, that's what we got going. For question 3, a band that you may not have heard of that you might like. I don't know, you may or may not have heard of them. Have you heard of Robyn Hitchcock? If you've heard of Robyn Hitchcock, then you may have heard of the band he used to be in before he was on his own as Robyn Hitchcock, and that was the Soft Boys. And this is I had all of their albums. Luckily, I kept this one because this one is the hardest to find on CD. In fact, I don't even know if this has been released on CD. If it has, it's hard to find. It's hard to get. But this is called Invisible Hits. And it's on the original Midnight Music label from way back in 1983. So I always thought this was a cool cover. I don't know. It was like, well, it's hard to see. It's a dark cover here. I don't know if it's easy to see or not, but I'm a big fan of Robin Hitchcock and Soft Boys. But Invisible Hits is one of my favorite records, and if you have not heard of them, give them a listen. Robin Hitchcock was described once by a reviewer as being, and Syd Barrett fans don't take offense to this, but some reviewer pointed out or commented that Robin Hitchcock was, just trying to describe him, he was Syd Barrett's younger, smarter brother. So take that however you want. It's not my words, it's a reviewer's words, but I kind of think there's a little truth to that. For me, he picked up where Syd Barrett left off. There's a big gap of nothing after Syd Barrett dropped out of music, and then Robin Hitchcock came along and kind of filled that blank. Intelligent, smart lyrics, great psychedelic, neo-psych music, strange lyrics. This is one of the rare actual covers where there's an actual photograph. Usually most of his albums, a couple of his albums have photographs, but a lot of them have artwork, mostly done by him. So, yeah, there are a handful of photographic albums. I'm thinking of one right now, but of his solo career. But the Soft Boys, there were two albums that had photos, and one that had a really strange illustration. I don't know if he did the illustration or not. That was a can of bees. And Underwater Moonlight, that had a photo of two people. I think they were wearing masks, or they were in some kind of costumes. I have the vinyl somewhere that I rebought after it was re-released on Yep Rock Records. But Underwater Moonlight is really good. Can of Bees is very good. Invisible Hits, I think, is the best. And it's not a hits album. It's just called Invisible Hits. So, the only one I would recommend by Soft Boys other than this would be their live album. And the name of that live album is Gotta Let This Hen Out. And it has a very cool illustrated cover painting. I know I have it in the box set that was just recently re-released. I don't know if I have my original or not. But anyway, Soft Boys, can't talk enough about them, obviously, because I've gone on too long already. So there you go. Those are my entries. Hopefully you haven't heard of the Soft Boys. Hopefully you have heard of the Soft Boys. But if you haven't, definitely give them a try. So anyway, take care, and good luck with your contest. And obviously, congratulations for the achievement. Someday I'll be at 300 plus, creeping there just over 100. Anyway, take care. Thanks.